Recording is on.
Okay, this is WIKISPEED editing and hardware. Sunday, February 27th, 2022. And so I'm going to go to Michael Wilczek first.
Okay, Michael Olchek, Saskatoon, Canada. This past week, I got a little bit of work done on the documentation generator for ROS. There seems to be 3 different kinds. Most of them have to do with using a style of markup language directly embedded in the comments of your Python or C++ code. I haven't found anything that does what I was looking for, which is the pretty printing, having things line up properly, especially for the Python, where they're indented properly and stuff like that. But there is 3 different packages, and while I was looking, I found Industrial Training Master has a little bit of a course and some documentation on ROS for industrial applications, and it uses its version of the documentation control uses the deoxygen library that has the embedded HTML kind of commands inside the code. But there is a lot of information on the site about how to use ROS for industrial applications. It's a little old. It's version 18.04 for Ubuntu, which is unfortunately no longer supported. But I think we could probably convert the scripts pretty easily. And I looked into the Miro and Trello alternatives. I sent a post out to the group. Unfortunately, I did try to get some progress on the SunFounder Raspberry Pi, and I typed a password in for the network incorrectly, and it wouldn't log in, and I couldn't shut off the network because everybody was watching Netflix and stuff. So, yeah, it didn't do a lot of good stuff there. Next week, I'm expecting to continue. Hopefully, I can get the password set up on SunFounder, and if anybody can assist me in reviewing these open source Trello replacements, that would be good. And no blocks. That's about it for me.
Okay, William.
Hello. Good evening. It's William Neal in Ontario, Canada. The bulk of my work this week was in the book edit side of our project, and I'm trying to sprint towards the finish so I can focus more on the Little Red Wagon. So I'm getting closer and closer. I'm nearing the end chapters of the book, and may take a few weeks after that to focus more on the Little Red Wagon. So I anticipate picking up the pace. In the meantime, done a little bit of sort of connections around Linux operating system and robotics and all of that this week, but nothing significant to report at the moment.
Okay, any blocks?
Only time. That's the only block always. Well, not always, but usually.
Okay. All right. So this is Lawrence Salter Gabriel on British Columbia. And I just now did some soldering again, and I'm getting comfortable with soldering the wires, and the flux, putting some flux on the wire first seemed to work. I'm not quite happy with my wire solders yet, but it looks like it's in sight now. It's not the flux seemed to be a good solution to get it to flow well into the wires. And things. I think that's all I did this week. Coming week, I'm hoping to do the red tape thing and finish those wires and test, because as soon as those wires are hooked up, then I can test that the level sensor works, and go ahead from there. So that and that was my block, which seems to be gone. So that that's it for me, and back to Michael for retro.
Okay, it looks like I got 2 points out of 5 for the week. So 1 for stand-up gives me a 5 out of 10. I'm going to go with a 9 for the team because we're still meeting and we're still making progress. People are getting busy, which is normal. Everybody has other lives and they can only contribute so much time to the project. And I do not have a process improvement.
William.
So, an interesting thing for, I guess my contribution this week is about a 3. And for the team, of course, a 9. I think everyone's working well as they can. Even the book editors who are not here sent in some updates about their work. I guess I have a lot of things for crosstalk, put it that way. Process improvements, just hold on that for now. Hopefully I'll find a few.
Okay, I'm going to give myself a 4 and the team a 9, and process improvement is continue with the selection of a board, and I'm interested in that. I did read the your email, Michael, and I didn't get around to downloading or checking out any of those yet, but I will. It's the kind of thing I really like to do. So that's it for the stand-up. Pretty quick. I mean, very quick. William?
Okay, William, are you wanting to keep recording for your crosstalk?
Sure, we could.
Okay.
I was leafing through the files on the little red wagon on the Wiki Factory website, and I noticed the most recently edited file says what is the limited aim at the moment. Just pulling this up. It is to drive a remote control car around using a laptop as the speed and steering control. And when I noticed that, I realized that that's exactly the same as a project I did with my students before. And we have all the source code for having done that. And maybe I could contribute that into the project because I always meant to do that. We reverse engineered a remote control helicopter. It wasn't a car. We actually controlled the helicopter in 3D flight using that approach.
Ooh.
And so I'd be very happy to contribute all the source code for that. It is in Python 2, not in Python 3. But I'm sure that's something we could adapt. I'm just sort of looking it up. It's actually, I realized I hadn't updated it onto my new computer. It's on my old computer, and I probably should back up that stuff.
I would really love to see that.
Yeah. So I was actually going to, if you give me a moment here, I could find it on my old computer and use a USB to get it on my new computer and show it on the screen here.
Okay. I was going to mention something. It's not strictly speaking WIKISPEED. My stepson is getting interested in an electric conversion of his RX-8 again.
Nice.
It was a project that he took on probably 6 or 8 years ago, and then he's got busy and it kind of fell to the wayside. Now he's interested in it again, so I've been looking at controllers, and AC controllers, really nothing has changed in the last 8 or 10 years. It's really kind of depressing.
Oh.
I mean, Tesla and Ford and everybody have made leaps and bounds in progress and efficiency, but that's all for their own proprietary controllers. Nothing open source seems to have gone very well.
Wow.
We found one open source controller, well, 2 of them. Damien McGuire and I can't remember the other guy's name. Over at Open Inverter Forum are still doing theirs, but theirs is a kind of a brain replacement for a Tesla or a BMW, or not BMW, Leaf or a Lexus hybrid, I think. So they've got a few boards that they can put into an existing inverter, or the inverter and the motor and all that stuff, but nothing that you can actually put into and control a motor kind of inside a car of your choosing. There is another one that uses a custom FPGA, and they say that they're developing it and it's out in the wild, but I haven't found anybody on a forum that says that they put it into a car yet. Nor
Wow.
can I find out how much it costs. So, and the old do-it-yourself kind of solutions, they're still, if you're looking at an AC motor, you're still in the 4,000-ish range.
Wow.
You're still looking at 6,000 plus for the battery pack, so it's still a pretty expensive
Ouch.
kind of thing to do. So I'm hoping that if we get Ross going, as well as I hope we will, we might be able to shoehorn some 48 volt lower voltage kind of drivetrains
That would be
to
really interesting.
to get people moving on like a side by side or a little ATV kind of size project.
Nice.
But if you want to move an actual car, you kind of got to go high voltage, and high voltage seems to be pretty tough for people to do it yourself.
Wow.
Like, how comfortable would you be working on something like that with other people at your level?
I did do my Mazda, and government of Saskatchewan won't license it because the battery pack is inside the cabin and is not sealed. So
Nothing real duct tape can't fix.
yeah, they're looking for airtight, which is relatively hard to do. The gasketing and stuff, you need a pretty rigid structure, and I lost interest in the project basically.
Ouch. Because it.
I'm speaking from ignorance here, but the that inverter controller that you talked about that was using the Chinese parts, that person who did that, do you remember what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember, and I'm sorry. Memory's
so
not
it
quite
was,
what it used to be.
You were pretty excited about, and I think it was more like an inverter, but it was to me, as I remember, it was something called a controller in some way, but that's probably not the kind of controller you're talking about. I think this was an inverter, and
Okay.
you said it was very cheap.
That was EVTV, and they were doing it for solar.
Yeah. Oh, right. So that's low voltage.
No, it's 220 for your house, right? But
Yeah.
it's not exactly the same as you would use for driving a car.
Right. I'm just thinking big here. I'm just wondering if, like, the guy who did that, who created that, would be a good collaborator if you wanted to take on creating one yourself.
Yeah, I'm not sure my hardware skills are up to that. The guy that I was working with on the open source inverter stuff, Paul Holmes, has kind of dropped off the face of the earth. He had to move because he lost his job, and he hasn't had any time to work on these projects for quite a while. He's on EcoModder, I think, is one of the forums, and the other one is Do It Yourself Electric Car.
Wow.
Anyway,
so but that's like a gap. That sounds like it's a hole in the whole movement.
One of the things that Damien over at Open Inverter says is why would they invent the power stage and all the complicated power stuff when you can go to a wrecker and get a complete inverter for a Prius for like $150. Well, I'm not sure why he can get cheap parts for the Prius over in Ireland, I think is where he is. But I certainly can't where I am. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
Maybe that's something we could check here. I don't know what the auto yards are here. You never know. There may be variable regional differences. We can do some auto parts arbitrage.
I'm pretty sure that there's not very many Priuses around here, so that they probably wouldn't get wrecked and end up in our yards.
That's it. And there's lots in southern Ontario.
Yeah, there's lots here too. And there's new incentives. I think this is in the province in their budget this week that for buying a used electric vehicle.
Mm.
Yeah, I heard you guys were getting some incentives for the used ones. That's excellent because that'll get more people into electric cars.
Nice.
And actually, on this island, I went to so there's 5,000 permanent residents, and in the summer I went to a electric car show on the island at the community center, and there were at least a half dozen Teslas, along with a mini electric
Mini Cooper, yep.
mini, and Leafs, and some other ones. So there was a dozen or more cars. So it's around. I was totally unaware because I didn't know what a Tesla looked like till I went there. I thought it looks very different from other cars, but it doesn't, sort of.
No, I mean it looks a little bit more slippery than a normal car. I would describe, but it doesn't look like the Cybertruck. I'll put it that way.
The Cybertruck, can't miss that one.
No.
I found the files if you'd like to take a look at what we did before in the class.
Yeah.
This is from like a class project. We actually did this in 2009. And let's see. Is it sharing the screen now?
Do you want to put them like on? Are you okay putting them on Google Drive or
Certainly.
Mega?
Yeah, I already have them on Dropbox, but very glad to share them wherever is the most convenient place. Is it sharing my screen?
Can you put them in an email?
Well, it might be sharing your screen if you're looking at Jitsi, where you're probably not sharing the source code window.
Okay, try this again. Entire screen. Okay, and then allow.
Okay, so now we're seeing Jitsi.
Okay, and now if I go here, can you see that?
Yep.
Good. Okay, so here's the first thing is we can just take a little look at the photos of what we did. We took my son's remote control unit apart. This is my student, He Hong Hong, who, he got 90% on the final exam of calculus on a test, like a diagnostic on the first day. And so I decided, well, I'm not going to take him through calculus again. He already knows it. And he hardly knows English, and he still got 90%. So we decided to ask a question, and the question was, can we control a remote control vehicle using our computers? And so we just decided to answer that question, took this thing apart, did a little research on the internet, and designed, this is our first prototype. It was a resistor ladder that converted, it's basically an analog to digital converter, or digital to analog converter rather.
Yep.
And we had a big ribbon cable. This is pre-USB, because we had a sort of a controller board, which was a pre-Arduino. It's called the UPIC. And anyway, that was the first iteration of our project, and it took a few months of lunch hours. And we did this during class time. There's the UPIC, and you see that. Look at these legacy connections. Kind of interesting. And that was way too much fun. And the project kind of ballooned. My students from McMaster University came in and showed us the Arduino. The first time I ever saw an Arduino was 2009. And I got my computer students and some math students involved in the project. And so these are two laptops which are networked together, and they process 20 photographs per second. And they're looking for a helicopter in 3D. And there's our second prototype underway. We took apart another 3D or another RC controller. We found these variable resistor units, and we measured them, and then we used the Arduino to mimic them, and did a lot of testing, and came up with a system that kind of started looking like, oh, we're getting closer. It looked like this anyway. And my friend, who is a RC helicopter enthusiast, came in the class, got some grade 9 students involved in soldering, And we basically, after about 1.5 years of the project, had the helicopter flying in all 4 controllable aspects of its flight. And I think I have like the first flight. I lost some of the later flight, but here's the first test flight with Python.
Hover. Down.
Oh, it was a hard landing, but it wasn't that.
Up.
Yeah, the landing gear is rated for that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Hover.
And you can see it spinning. We actually fixed
Down.
that. We just had to tweak it, and we actually got it fairly well. We did some choreography with it later. Her Hong Hong, he could hardly speak English at the beginning of the project, and we had to stop him by the end of the project. And that was our project, and I can make this whole thing open source and just share it somehow. And it relates very closely to the Arduino and to the stated goal of the project that you put up in the notes.
Wow.
Excellent.
So that was
Very impressive.
a very fun project. It was really difficult. We almost gave up many times. And the only thing that caused us to take so long to do it was the curriculum. The school curriculum is the #1 source of delay of learning, I have found, after 25 years.
So can you send a link to Dropbox or
Sure.
some other thing that'll work?
Let's see what I can do here. I'll see if I can find a way to send the link to that. I may actually put this in my Google Drive. Is Google?
It's Python I want to see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can.
Google Drive. Yeah, Google Drive is good.
Yeah. Maybe I'll upload these to Google Drive. I can show a few of the Python program things that we... Am I still sharing my screen?
Yep.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So here is some of the Python that we developed. Flight test full control. It's in Python 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we wrote it with some very, very simple... I was reminded in the source code that you have in the LRW project, there are some statements very similar to this, connecting to an Arduino. And this little app is a graphical user interface app. It is not the best programming, but it works. It was mostly done through copying and pasting, as you see. And we have a whole bunch of buttons that each one has a special... We developed our own networking protocol to send signals to the helicopter, and by trial and error, calibrated them so that the helicopter would work with 4 different functions. So for example, if I send a B100, then I'm sending it on channel B, and I'm giving it 100 out of the 255, which is about halfway to make it sort of just not go left or right, but just sort of stay there.
Okay.
And that's a sort of a summary of all of that. I wonder is anything... Oh, I wonder if I have a screenshot from it. That's not quite it. There it is. That's what the original program looked like. We just had buttons. And that was the same program we used in that film. But the next year, with the grade 9 students, we added 2 more rows. Here we just had it going forward and backwards or up and down. But by the last time, we could make it turn and do all kinds of stuff.
Cool.
So that was our program, and it was way too much fun.
So that was running on a Windows machine, probably an XP machine?
At that time, I think I was running Windows 7, but not by choice. There was I was sort of in between Linux machines, and the only reason I was not using Linux was because I was so busy as a vice principal that it was just not possible to get my machine properly set up without sacrificing a lot of other things.
Priorities, that's
Yes.
always
So,
the bane.
there are a few other parts to the program here. Like, for example, the motion tracker part was designed to find red and blue sort of beacons, or just it's finding something in the photograph, so it's actually doing 3D tracking, because 2 laptops are simultaneously tracking something. In my mathematics students, they developed all this mathematics to convert it all to X and Y coordinates, X, Y, Z coordinates, basically, to find the 3D position of the helicopter.
So instead of using a webcam, you're using the camera built into the laptop.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There were issues with that, and it was really difficult, but we tested it and it worked.
Oh.
So there's our project. I guess I should have just continued and got into drones because that's before they were really big. But we were well along the way. My students were highly capable enough to do all the mathematics required to do all the drone tracking.
So which video libraries did you use, and are they still around, I guess?
I remember using PIL, which is Pillow. I guess we can see in the source code there. Yeah, PIL.
Okay.
I have a feeling that some of the libraries are deprecated. I remember trying to get it working several times over the last 10 years, and every time I had to find different updates. But I think it is still possible to run it. It's just a little tedious.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I have an issue with in Linux in general is everything wants to be the latest version.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the latest version isn't necessarily a good way to do it.
Oh yeah. I think yeah, that's why they have ROS 1 and ROS 2, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess, well, I haven't looked into it as much as Lauren, but Lauren says ROS 2 is not quite done.
And I guess it's sort of like Python 2 and 3. It took them more than 10 years to finally get over Python 2.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there's still a big bunch of libraries that you can only get on Python 2.
I've seen a few references to that in the last few weeks even. So, but I guess this one, I wouldn't mind trying to convert it to Python 3 since I do everything else in Python 3. But anyway, maybe some part of that would help to fulfill the objectives of this project. And it could actually form a basis.
Having the API available will certainly aid in troubleshooting. That's for sure. And being able to steer separately from where you're pointing the camera.
Nice.
Have to add a few more buttons, but
yeah,
examples are always good.
Good. Well, that's
Yep.
So that's something I could try to do. I just work on converting this thing to Python 3 and to some more modern libraries and see if it still works. And if it does, then we can go from there.
So you still got the hardware?
No, we fried that. That's why we stopped the project. My budget was near zero. We spent $60 for the whole project. So all the rest of the stuff was hardware we already had.
Okay.
So there's a little kind of fun. I just wanted to mention I'm running a bunch of robotics tournaments from now to the end of April, and that includes Sunday nights. And so I may be absent from some of the Sunday nights, not because I want to, but simply because my job requires it.
Okay.
I will. So definitely next Sunday we'll be packing up from an entire weekend of robotics. So I will not be able to make our regular call. But the next 2 Sundays after that, there's a good possibility I'll be available. Followed by about 3 or 4 Sundays in a row when I'm just going to be MIA.
Yeah. Well, we will soldier on and.
Excellent. Well, Lauren will solder on, but that's.
Okay. All right. It was really nice talking.
Very good to speak with you guys, and I will hope to find a way to share that. I'll see if I can.
Yes.
Google.
I would be interested in. Well,
wait.
first of all, I'll
let me
download and see
stop.
if I can get it to compile. But
Stop recording.
Good.
Okay.